everyone, this is part 2 of the Service and Settlements lecture. If you missed part 1, of course you want to go back and watch it, but we were talking about the central place theory and this theory that was brought about by Walter Kristol in the 1930s, and he talked about how there is a specific way where services should be placed, okay? And he talked about how the central place or where the service is located needs to have a specific market area or that threshold, the minimum number of people needed to support the service. And we also need to consider the range, so the distance people are willing to travel. Now, range, important thing, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but the range is important, but the distance is even more important, which is the fact that sometimes the range might be farther. So for example, I have a Dunkin' Donuts down the street from my house, right? But I may go to a different Dunkin' Donuts because it actually takes me a quicker amount of time to get there, even though the one near my house is closer. So that has to be talked about within this equation, which wasn't talked about in the 1930s because we didn't have the amount of traffic that we have today, right? So distance or that range is important, but what's more important also is to discuss the obstacles within that distance that could come up for individuals. Okay, so we use, in the central place theory, we use hexagons to show where the best areas. So if I was to set up businesses, multiple businesses, let's say I own Dunkin' Donuts, right? And I want to set up multiple Dunkin' Donuts. When I look at these, I don't want to look at where I put that market area. I want to use hexagons. And the reason I want to use hexagons rather than circles and squares is for a couple reasons. Number one, if I use circles and I put my business in the middle of that circle to encompass the threshold and the range, you can see here that the circles don't kind of match up to each other. There's areas that are open, right? Meaning, or there are areas that overlay. So if I open multiple Dunkin' Donuts and I use circles to try and figure out where the best place would be for me to put my Dunkin' Donuts, I may overlap, meaning that some of my customers who use this Dunkin' Donuts may also use this Dunkin' Donuts, and that's not good because now those customers are going to this Dunkin' Donuts instead of this Dunkin' Donuts, which could lower, and then maybe this Dunkin' Donuts winds up having to go out of business. I don't know, right? So that's important. The other thing is you can see here, there's areas that are left with people that are not drawn to specific businesses because they're not in that market area. So it's important for that. I don't use squares because it's not equidistant. So if I could travel if I travel from each area, it's not equidistant, okay? Which may cause me that if I live here, right, I could go to this market instead of this market. Okay, so it's really important that when you have a market area that everything is equidistant from the center, from where your business is. So that's why we use hexagons, because it's equidistant to each area. There's no overlap. There's no people that are not captured. So it's really important for us to do that. Okay, so when you're setting up a business, this is a really important theory to use. Okay, of course, there are problems with the theory, but it is a good theory to use when you're looking at what's the best range, threshold, distance, etc. for where your business is to be located. Okay, the next topic we're going to talk about is rank size rule, and this is about cities, not services, but cities, okay, or settlements. The rank size rule is a rule that tells us how big cities are and why, and then what the next size city is going to look like. We can actually sort of predict that, okay? I know that sounds crazy, but it is important for us to predict city size. Now, in the US and in China, we don't really follow this rule. We don't follow the primate city rule or the rank size rules, okay? A primate city is important to know, and this is usually the largest settlement. Okay, and it's called a primate city because it has more than twice as many people as the next ranking city. Okay, I know it can be a little complicated, but we use rank size rule, or this primate city rank size rule. We use this because it helps us analyze the settlements. It helps us explain the networks with respect to economic activities. And it helps us look at the imbalances between settlements, okay? Why does this city have all the services and this city doesn't? Typically, we put the most resources in the largest city and then the next amount of resources in the next largest city. So if you're the fifth largest city, you're receiving 1/5 the services that the largest city is being given, okay? And that doesn't sometimes allow the best networks of transportation to exist. Maybe healthcare is not the best in that fifth ranked city. Maybe the education that is funds are not the same as what's put into the largest city. So it does make a difference, and it needs to be discussed. So that's really important. In the United States, we follow a little bit of a different method. Yes, larger cities get more resources, but we try to spread resources out via population size of some of those cities too. So a lot of it has to do with voting rights, whereas rather than just the amount of the population. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about it. So what does this mean? It means the largest city is there, and the next largest city, if we're following the rank size rule, the next largest city is half of the size of the largest city. The next largest city is 1/3 the size, etc. Okay, as we move down. So the fifth largest city will have 1/5 the population of the largest city. Okay, so the largest city is there, the fifth largest will be 1/5 the population of that largest city. Okay, so you'll sometimes see this, so 1/n of the population of the largest city. Okay, so the fifth largest city will be 1/5 if it's 1/4. India follows this. A lot of Indian cities follow this rank size rule. So the largest city is there, the second largest city is 1/2 the largest city, and it follows its trajectory all the way down. Okay, so I'm going to move on from rank size, and you have that video that will help you as well with that, with rank size rule and primate city rule. So you have that video within the module. The other thing that I want to briefly talk about is that profitability, and I would like to move this up here, but geographers use those central place theory, range, and threshold, but you also need to know that distance factor. So as you're watching some of the videos from Mr. Sin on that central place theory, you also want to think about that distance, because a lot of us think that distance matters when in reality it's not truly the case, is that you may actually go somewhere else if it takes you less time. Time is a huge factor. Okay. All right, so that's about it for services and settlements. I know I did a lot of talking in these sessions. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. But I gave you those extra videos that hopefully will help you as you're reading along with the textbook and with the PowerPoint, etc., to understand the topics that we cover within this session. So I would definitely tell you that you should know for the midterm exam, you definitely want to know the following concepts. So you want to know what rank size rule is, what primate city rule is, market area, central place theory, the hexagon pattern, who Walter Christoller is, agglomeration, economics of agglomeration. You need to know what site is, what situation, what range, what threshold, and what distance are. So you want to make sure you understand those specific factors, okay? So you want to know why we choose site, why we choose situation, range, threshold, distance, economies of agglomeration, frictions of distance, agglomeration, Walter Christoller, hexagon pattern, central place theory, market area, primate city rule, and rank size rule. Okay, so they're important terms that you want to definitely come away from this session with. Reach out if you have any questions.